The Elephant and Castle roundabout is no more. Seen as one of London's most dangerous junctions, it had witnessed 80 collisions since 2012, but has now been replaced by a new layout for two-way traffic. But other changes to the area are also afoot, and one man isn't happy. Local resident and campaigner Peter Tatchell says the real story around this area is about social cleansing, in particular at the Heygate estate. Here's Peter's personal take.
The Heygate Council estate at Elephant and Castle was built in the 1970s with spacious modern housing for low-income families. But today, it looks like this. It's one of the largest redevelopment sites in Britain. I've lived locally for nearly 40 years. I've seen the local working class community forced out. It is social cleansing on a massive scale. The original 1,212 council flats are being replaced by twice as many new homes. But only 82 of them will be social housing units. The rest will be unaffordable for most Londoners, with many being sold off-plan to foreign investors.
Well, that anybody who lived on the Heygate would have been able to afford anything.
I'm here with Jerry Flynn, a former council tenant on the Heygate estate. So where have all the council tenants who used to live here, where have they gone?
Well, most of the council tenants still live in the area, in the Walworth area, but very few of them live in any new accommodation. They've just moved into current council housing stock. The leaseholders who are on the estate, who bought their council homes, they've gone much farther afield. They're scattered to the outer boroughs. Simply because they can't afford to buy anywhere that's being built here. The compensation wasn't sufficient.
That's not the only reason this is a very bad deal. The Heygate site is prime real estate, just over a mile from the Houses of Parliament. In 2007, Southwark Council valued the 25-acre site at £150 million. But later, it sold the site for a mere £50 million. That's 1/3 of the original estimated value, and much less than the selling price for comparable sites in the area. The 1.5-acre Trebica site was sold to private developers for £40 million, and the 3.5-acre shopping centre site was sold for £80 million. Both sold for many millions more per acre than Southwark Council secured for the 25-acre Heygate site. What's happening at the Elephant and Castle is symptomatic of what's happening all over London, where developers have a stranglehold over local councils and where working class communities are being broken up and dispersed in the name of regeneration.
Peter Tatchell reporting there, as they say, and Peter Tatchell's here with us now, along with Peter John, who is the leader of Southwark Council. Well, allegations, accusations set out in full there. Respond to them. Underpriced, so you didn't get as much money as you should have done, you're not creating enough social housing. What's going wrong at the Heygate estate?
Well, the Elephant and Castle is about creating a new part of Southwark where, you have new housing, new jobs, new opportunities. And, what you had previously was not a successful estate. The Heygate estate was a failing estate. People didn't want to live there. And really people underachieving in terms of health, education and employment terms. And in order to create a better mixed community where people can thrive and get on, something had to give. And I think it's also really important to acknowledge that the Heygate estate was very poor quality housing. And our aspiration as a council, with the largest council landlord in London, our aspiration is absolutely that people have the best quality housing, and that's what we're delivering across Southwark.
Do you accept you didn't get what you should have done, commercial value for the site, and do you accept that you're not providing the kind of social or affordable housing that you would hope to, or people we would all expect you to do?
Well, just on those 2 points, I mean, the 50 million that Peter talked about is just one part of the financial package. It's a very complex financial package, and at the end of the day, when profit is coming out of this site, the council has a 50% share of the profits that's delivered. So it will be a lot more, effectively, that the council gets for the land than the £50 million headline figure that we just saw. At least 25% of the housing delivered on site is affordable housing. That includes social rented in greater numbers than Peter described. But what's more important is that part of the Elephant and Castle regeneration plan is that there's going to be something like 1,750 affordable housing units across the wider area. So you don't have a concentration of social housing in one place, but it's spread out across a wider area. And I think that's better news. That creates that mixed community where you've got more jobs and more opportunities. Over 400 people, Southwark residents, already employed at the Elephant and Castle site.
Peter Tatchell, do you think the old Heygate estate was a great place to live?
It was very good in its time. Lots of people would have preferred the estate to be refurbished, and according to one surveyor, it could have been refurbished for a cost of £35 million, which is a very better deal for local people. Even if that was an underestimate, it would have never cost the £65 million the council had to pay out to empty the estate. So this is bad economics across the board. Look at what the situation is now. A two-bedroom flat is £738,000. A three-bedroom flat, the latest ones, are selling for £1.3 million. This is totally excluding the vast majority of local people. It is meaning that the character of the area is being changed. The livelihood and community that once existed has been dismembered, and that is totally wrong.
Well, look, as I say, the Heygate was not a great place to live. There's a reason why vigilante and zombie films were filmed on the Heygate estate, because it was a failing part, unfortunately, of Southwark. And as I say, you know, this is, I think it's important that we have employment opportunities created, 400 jobs created on site already. That's got to be good news.
Peter, even if it was a failing estate, why is it that out of 2,700 new homes, only 79 are going to be socially rented? That's a scandal. That's a scandal.
Well, no, because
it's a reality of commercial prices, isn't it?
I mean, that is the reality, and the figures that Peter quoted about the cost of to buy homes, I mean, that's the reality of London. It's not just the reality of Heygate. The reality is that we're not building enough homes in London. And if you're interested and want to talk about social cleansing, Peter, I think you should be talking about the government's proposals under the Housing and Planning Bill, which is really going to socially cleanse, I think, central London, with extending right to buy to housing association tenants and making councils like ours sell some of our high-value assets in order to pay for it. I think that's a scandal of social cleansing and not what we're doing.
Do you think, Peter Tatchell, do you think, Peter Tatchell, the wrong enemy is in your sights, and the one you might be aiming it at is here? You know?
Well, it's both. But as a Labour council,
building 11,000 new council homes
over 20 or 30 years,
more than any other.
Well, that may be, but right now we have lost over 1,100 council flats in the area, and that is a huge loss. I didn't buy my council flat. I could have bought it. I could have bought my council flat for £15,000. I refused to because I wanted to preserve council housing regeneration.
Let me bring Greg Hands in here about, you know, seeing the kind of tensions that are created, shall we say, by, you know, difficult times, financial times.
Well, I don't want to necessarily comment on the specifics of the scheme in Southwark, but in general, I think estate regeneration is a very, very good thing to be doing. In my constituency of Chelsea and Fulham, we've also got some older estates that desperately need, some that don't meet the decent home standard, some that need extensive renovation. I don't think we should need to be ideological about what kind of homes are built in addition. I think it's important that the homes be regenerated. We do as much as we can to protect the existing social housing and existing mix, but if it means adding in additional private capital and adding new homes, I think that's a good thing. And by the way, Tim, actually, the government is doubling the amount of money being put into estate regeneration. We're also doing big programmes on London Help to Buy, starter homes and shared ownership, doubling all of that as well.
Very, very briefly, very brief.
Well, I just wanted to pick up Peter's point about the forced sell-off of council homes, which is going to have a huge impact on London and exacerbate the housing shortage.
I know. Another time. Thanks very much to you both. Now for the rest of the news in 60 seconds.
Plans for the City of London's tallest tower, one undershaft, have been unveiled. Just a fraction shorter than the Shard, the 73-storey tower could be the second highest in the capital. A Freedom of Information request has revealed that Transport for London pulled out of staging the initial stages of the 2017 Tour de France after learning that its central annual grant of £591 million was to be gradually withdrawn over the next 3 years. Politicians are amongst the hundreds of thousands of people who have called for US presidential candidate Donald Trump to be banned from entering the UK.
Yeah, well, you remember it happened in Betna, was it Betna, not Betna Green, somewhere very close to, I mean, is it Liverpool Street? You remember I told you about, well, I mean, well, it's the same thing. The people, I mean, took to the streets, they demonstrated. I mean, they were demonstrating that, I mean, in the council there, has been selling the whole places to people who, I mean, to outsiders, people who are not even born in the place, you know. So, I mean, it's not becoming that people who are coming from outside, like if you got your money, you don't know where to put your money. You don't know where to put your money. You just put your money into, I mean, it's buildings. So all the buildings in Southwark or wherever, right? Whether it is in Southwark or whether it is in Westminster or whether it is, I mean, in Chelsea, these people are just coming and buy the whole place, right? They're taking the whole place from these people, right? So, I mean, yeah, the people who've been living, as I said, they've been living in this place for all these years. Like, it is fine. One of them is just setting up now to fight the government. But I mean,